Hey, what's up guys? So today we're going to be going over the best Bola build that is non-ZDPS in Season 21 for the Demon Hunter. With of course the new buffs that the Bow of Hashir got, as well as the Ime Maze Duffel, a lot of people were interested in making a Bola Demon Hunter. Now again, this is a non-ZDPS build, and it's the best variant that we can push with it. So first off, just as a heads up, in case any of you guys are interested in the best DPS build for the Greater Rift pushings, this is probably not going to be the build for you. The build that you're looking for is going to be the Hungering Arrow build. I'll have that video pinned down below in case any of you guys do want to go ahead and check that out. But I know a lot of people wanted to go ahead and play Bolas and actually deal damage with it, and this is the best that we can go ahead and make this build, which is basically a T16 key farming build, or if you want to go ahead and level up some gems, this could be an excellent way to go ahead and do it. I mean, heck, we're barely a minute into the video and the Greater Rift is almost done. This is how fast this build is. So it's one of the best speed builds for the game. So keep that in mind, that this is the best way that we can make use of Bolas, is basically a T16 speed build. So anyways, I'll have, of course, the D3 planner links down below, but let's go ahead and go over it, and I'll kind of briefly explain the build, and then we'll go ahead and go in depth. So it is a GOD set, so the Gears of Dreadland set. What we've done is we increase the attack speed to the point where we're able to go ahead and deal enough damage, while also not requiring, of course, convention of elements. We're going to be using Obsidian the Ring of the Zodiac. The reason why that the Hungering Arrow build is very strong is you're able to basically just use the quiver and get a huge damage bonus up to 600%, while the Bolas, they're sitting there at getting anywhere from 150 to potentially like 175 in terms of the bonus damage. And then you have to have both of your slots filled up, and you can only increase the Bow of Hashir to 150. So you can see that this build just simply lacks damage to the point where it's not viable to push the GR. So that's the main difference between this and the Hungering Arrow builds. However, it does group up all the enemies, and you'll have that 100% chance on explosion to pull all those enemies, and on top of that, the Bolas will explode instantly, so you're going to be able to group up enemies, and that's how this build is so much faster than the Hungering Arrow build. But you must get enough damage, and that's the challenge with this build, is to be able to meet those thresholds. What we're going to be able to do is basically get more damage with the Scorched Necklace. You normally think, okay, then you need the Fortress Ballista, so you will be taking less damage because you'll have that shield. In our case, we're going to run Scorched Necklace without the Wraps of Clarity, so we will be taking a lot of damage. However, we can take no damage if we can 100% uptime Smokescreen with Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac and, of course, Preparation. You'll see in the gameplay, we don't run out of resource pretty much ever. We're able to go ahead and speed and go super fast. So that's basically the rundown of the build, and we'll go ahead and go into the different things that you will need to get this build to run as smoothly as you guys are seeing during the gameplay. So what it really comes down to is also Echoing Fury being able to grant you that additional attack speed. You're seeing these Bolas just fly across the screen. There's so many that are able to be procced, but that also basically gives us cooldown reduction with, of course, Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac. Every time we're able to go ahead and hit an enemy, we're going to be able to reduce our cooldown with our skills. Now, there is a build that I will mention briefly towards the end of the video that can make this build even faster. However, it requires thousands of Paragons, and most of you guys probably aren't interested in that build. It's kind of for like the players that are really interested in min-maxing with like Boon of the Hoarder and the Adverse Band to go even faster. But again, most of you guys won't be interested in that, but I will briefly cover it towards the end to go even faster with Krelm's buff belt. But again, it requires lots and lots of Paragons to make viable. Most of you guys will be satisfied with this one, so we're going to go ahead and go over what I would consider what majority of you guys will be running. There are a few rooms for improvements here in terms of min-maxing, so if you guys don't have some of the pieces of gear, don't worry, you can get the build up and running perfectly fine. So first off, you're pretty much looking for the same pieces of stats on most of the gear. We're talking crit hit chance, crit hit damage, area damage, and if you need cooldown reduction, you can go ahead and get that on some pieces of gear. But I'll give you guys the brief explanation of it. So with the helm, we just really are looking for that crit hit chance. The rest of the stats don't really matter too much. Obviously, you do want main stat on the helm, yeah. And in terms of the amulet, you do need the Scorched Necklace because, of course, with any build, you need to be able to do enough damage. But, of course, you will be taking a lot of damage. But, again, Remember, Smokescreen's going to make it so we won't be taking really any damage for majority of the gameplay. There will be a very small brief window where you will be able to be hit. It's usually done with things that are AoE on the ground that you're going to have to basically watch out for, but pretty much you won't be taking much damage. For the shoulders, we're really just looking for area damage, and if we can get cooldown reduction as well, that can be great. For the gloves, we're just looking for crit hit chance, crit hit damage. You can also get attack speed. That's very important for any build that is using the God set. There are certain intervals where you'll be able to basically proc your primary skill a little bit faster. For me, I'm like 3.1 is where I consider it pretty good for attack speed. This is with Echoing Fury proc, by the way. You can also run the Enchantress to give you additional attack speed, but ideally you kind of want around three attacks per second. And then we also happen to have the chest piece. It doesn't really matter for this. I just happen to roll and get melee damage reduction over here as well. For the bracers, any speed build, you definitely want Nemesis. You can run War's Chain Arm Guards to go even faster, but then you'll have to cube the Nemesis. You can do either one. Again, this is for people that are very, very high in the Paragon to where they can roll off other things that normally would give you damage, but for any speed build, Nemesis is the go-to. Then we have Hunter's Wrath for additional damage. Alternatively, if you are really high in Paragon and you don't need the extra 200% increased damage, you can run the Belt the Realms to give you more run speed. This will let you exceed the normal 25% run speed. Like, there are some things in Diablo where it doesn't actually grant you the additional movement speed. For example, on one of the pets, the ferrets, they won't actually give you more than 25% of what's in the game in terms of the Paragon. Like, if you max out the 25 in Paragon, you won't get that additional speed, but the Crumbs will let you exceed that. And then for the rings, focus and restraint, you're really just looking to go ahead and get that area damage and attack speed, and if you can get crit hit chance or damage, and you can roll off dexterity once your Paragon points are high enough, that's okay, but don't worry too much about this. As long as they're focus and restraint, you'll be a-okay. You can see it. My rolls are absolutely terrible here. And then for the pants, you want to get Bola damage on the pants as well as on the belt. Remember, a lot of you guys probably already have the God set and you're running Hungry Arrow. You might need to pick up a second piece over here, just so you can go and swap them in and out in case you want to go from speed to GR pushings. And then, of course, you need to run the Bow of Hashir. The reason why you actually have to run this is because you cannot use Strafe with other weapons. It has to be basically the Demon Hunter weapons. You can't run Echoing Fury, so this one is required over here. But what you're looking for is area damage. You can get attack speed instead of damage. That's totally viable as well. And then there's nothing special for the boots. And then we need the Imeime's Duffel. What you're looking for is attack speed, crit chance, and then also if you can get increased Bola damage. This one's kind of difficult to roll all of those stats on it, but if you can, that's what you're really looking forward to. In terms of the skills, Bolas, we want the cold, so we can make them slower, but also it's shooting out 3 of them, so it's ideally one of the strongest. There's also Imminent Doom, which is the fire one that takes longer to do the damage, but it doesn't really matter since they will be exploding instantly anyways. And then Strafe, Drifting Shadow, because it's going to be the fastest over here. No need to mess around with the Fire Rune, which is also viable, but that's more for GR pushings, and this is not a GR pushing build. The only way to make use out of the Bolas is basically what we're showing off right here. And then Preparation, Focus, Mind. You can also run the one that grants you additional 20 discipline, but it doesn't really matter too much. Just one of these is fine, just so we can infinitely make use out of our smoke screen. And then we have Companion Boar. Now, normally you'd run Fan of Knives for the GR pushings, as you guys have seen from Hungry Arrow, but I don't want to activate that because I don't want Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac to reduce the cooldown of our Companion. Don't even activate the Boar Companion at all. Just have it equipped. You can run Fan of Knives. Technically, this is an optional skill, but it does give us some form of damage reduction because remember, we don't happen to have Fortress Ballista, and we're not running the Wraps of Clarity, and on top of that, we're running Scorched Necklace. So we're taking way more damage than normal. But again, if you just take no damage, it doesn't matter how much damage that we're taking, right? We don't really need damage reduction, but again, it just kind of helps out. But Vengeance over here, Dark Heart, so we can get extra damage reduction. And of course, Vengeance is in every Demon Hunter build. And because we don't have Dawn, that's where Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac really helps out. Because we don't need Convention of Elements because it's T16 speedruns. We don't need to wait for that window. Smoke screen displacement, so we can move super fast. And then for our passives, Blood Vengeance over here. This is going to make it so when we collect those orbs, we'll be gaining Discipline. It also gives us Hatred, which helps out because as you increase your attack speed, you're going to be running out of resource faster because Strafe is activating much faster. But with this, it helps out a little bit because we're able to go ahead and get that additional Discipline and Hatred. And then we have Night Stalker. This gives us additional Hatred. The last thing you want to do in any speed build is have to slow down, and this is what's going to help out with that. And then we have Ambush. It's just extra damage. And then this one's optional. You can run Awareness if you want to, but Call of the Weak is excellent. It's just increased damage over here that is more consistent than most of the other ones. Now, in terms of the things inside of the cube, Echoing Fury, this is what's going to let us attack super fast, which is going to make Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac even stronger, because again, that's how we have extra survivability and of course cooldown reduction with this skill, as well as preparation to maintain our smoke screen 100% of the time. And then we've also got Depth Diggers. This is going to go ahead and grant us extra damage. This is already seen in the Hungering Arrow build, and then again I mentioned this several times, but Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac makes it so we don't have to use Dawn and lets us go ahead and survive with 100% uptime. Now, as far as the other build that I did mention, you can go ahead and throw on Hot Pursuit as one of your passives to go even faster, but there comes to a point where you're moving too fast in Diablo, but I will go ahead and mention it for the sake of mentioning it because you can go faster than what you're seeing, which is, again, we're clearing these rifts in just a little over a minute here, but if you really want to go faster, Hot Pursuit. If you're running GRs, you can't have gold drop, so you don't want to run Boon to the Hoarder if you're doing greater rifts. But if you're just doing T16 rifts, you can run Boon to the Hoarder, you can run Avarice Band, and go so fast. But there comes to a point in Diablo or any game where you're literally moving so fast that you're going to be running right into walls and not going anywhere. So I feel like the build is pretty efficient with the first build, but for those of you guys that are interested in min-maxing, that is available as an option. Also want to go ahead and mention the gems here. So Simplicity, Strength, and Taeguk are basically the go-to gems for any of these GOD builds. The last one is going to be considered optional. You can run the Gogok of Swiftness. This is going to give you extra cooldown reduction, and on top of that, you're going to get increased attack speed, which is the main reason why I like this so much, which again, it basically gives you even more cooldown reduction. But on top of that, once you get this to have high enough level, you get basically 30% chance to dodge an attack, and that means you won't be taking any damage, which makes it so Scorch's Necklace is even stronger, and therefore you can basically have less survivability, so to speak, or toughness, because you just won't be taking any damage. But the only thing that you really have to worry about in this game is really area damage that's on the floor, like an AoE, because again, you're pretty much invulnerable for most of the gameplay, but there are certain things that you cannot dodge that are things on the ground, so watch out for those. But anyways, guys, that's it for the build. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, drop a like on it. If you are new here, subscribe and turn on that bell so you don't miss out on more Diablo builds. But yeah, currently as far as bolas goes, this was something that I wanted to build because we got these new items to play with, but even on the leaderboard, people have been dropping bolas completely. Even for ZDPS builds, they're not even running it. They're running things to increase extra damage, and also it causes lag in the game when you're pushing. But again, the best way to play bolas is to make a speed build. And if you guys have any questions, let me know down below in the comment section below. But thanks for tuning in, guys, and I'll catch you in the next video. Have a good one, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.